next, I would like to introduce Reiner. He is the Senior Manager of Business Development Storage Products and is going to take us on a journey of the resilient hard disk drive from 1984 to 2062. Reiner? Thanks so much.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Nice to see you all here. My name is Rainer from Toshiba, and Toshiba is a hard disk drive vendor. Vendors usually talk about lineups and roadmaps. Our roadmap is simple. Last year, we introduced a hard disk drive of 20 terabyte. This year, we will be launching 22 terabyte, and next year, guess what? 24 terabyte. That's it. Okay, but I guess we still have some time left. Let's put this in a little bit larger perspective in terms of timing and technology. Let's say the 20 terabyte hard disk drive that we introduced last year, it's a kind of anniversary of the hard disk drive. Yeah? 20 terabyte is 20 trillion bytes or 20 million pictures or songs. 20 terabyte hard disk drive, no one has 20 million pictures or songs, not a single person. These hard disk drives are obviously for the cloud. So in the cloud, a few people or a group of people have 20 million songs. So this is the application of these hard disk drives. If we go back and look how the hard disk drive have been evolving, and this anniversary is a kind of a good reason, a good opportunity to look back. Coincidentally, exactly 20 years ago, we introduced a 20 gigabyte hard disk drive. Form factor is a little smaller. It was the big time of these laptop computers, and 20 gigabyte was a lot for a laptop computer. 20,000 songs or 20,000 pictures. That's what people in the early days of the digital still cameras accumulated over some time. And most of us still remember the 20 gigabyte in a laptop was initially a lot, but it was quickly filled. You know, from this 20 gigabyte 20 years ago to the 20 terabyte today, that's a factor of 1,000 in terms of capacity. And interestingly, another 20 years back, we had these guys. You know, 20 megabyte, again a factor of 1,000 in 20 years. At the big bricks, the older ones of us like me may still remember this IBM PCs and IBM clones where we use these bricks. 20 megabyte is just 20 songs or pictures. We didn't have songs and pictures back then. I mean, and 20 megabyte at that time was also a lot, because as we didn't have songs and pictures, digital pictures, we had text lines, only text lines. We had our green text monitors, were programming, and started with digital business operation, very kind of basic, if we compare it with today. So that's back 40 years. And within 40 years, we increased the capacity by 1 million. So that's a proven record. We know it happened with our products today. And then there's obviously the next question. What will be in 20 years? Now, If technology development would just continue as it did in the last 40 years, no acceleration, just a linear, continuous development. In 20 years, in 2042, the single hard disk drive should have 20 petabyte, which is about 3 to 4 data center racks in that form factor. No one can imagine. I doubt it will happen. I have no idea how to fit 3 to 4 racks in this form factor. But back 20 years ago and back 40 years ago, no one was expecting that we have 20 terabyte. We didn't even know at that time what a terabyte was. Today we know what a petabyte is. And 20 petabyte in your cloud backbone data centers, you easily have 20 petabytes in these racks. So, although I have no idea how to do this, it does not mean at all that it's not possible. And I mean, we look back 40 years, so let's look forward 40 years. By the way, one remark to Alina and the Cloudfest team. For Cloudfest 2043, I will be 75. Hopefully, long time retired. But please take a note, let's keep in touch. If you invite me for Cloudfest 2043 as a guest speaker, we can review what I said today. Okay, 2062, then I'm 95. If I'm still alive, I may come. Please prepare for wheelchairs or so. So in 2062, this is another 40 years, it should be 20 exabyte. 20 exabyte is about 3 or 4 data center halls in one sandwich box. Well, again, impossible. But remember, at that time, we also said more is impossible. 2092 is maybe a little far off. 2,000 data center halls in a box. Many other things will have happened by then. So, factor of 1,000 every 20 years, 20 megabyte, 20 gigabyte, 20 terabyte, 20 petabyte, 20 exabyte. That's 80 years of HDD development. And you know, it worked the last 40 years. This is why I call it the resilient hard disk drive. It's a very resilient technology. It will kind of keep us going for some more time. Of course, in terms of technology, for 20 petabyte and 20 exabyte, it may not be spinning disks. As of today, we will of course continue to develop a spinning disk, and I will come later on what's possible as of today with the spinning disks. But there are other storage technologies under very basic research, kind of not in our hard disk drive division, but in the kind of research institutes all around the world. And these potential technologies in very experimental stage are quartz crystals. So you can encode your data on a quartz with a nanostructured material. It's extremely robust. And actually, if I look at what is available today in the very early experiments, then there is some public data point that says a quartz the size of an ordinary coin can hold 360 terabytes of data. That means the 20 petabyte in 2043 is about 60 coins. Well, 60 coins will fit here. It's just that we have to work a little bit more on reading and writing, but kind of the rough order of magnitude matches. And then, for beyond that, there is R&D ongoing in encoding on synthetic DNA. DNA is the most robust and most dense storage technology that is theoretically available. It's very durable. DNA itself is cheap, always readable in the future. Well, the DNA writing today is pretty expensive. There, mankind has to work on. But if we do the math of what the scientists are telling us today, then the 20 exabyte, it's like a size of a Coke can, 100 grams of DNA. 100 grams of DNA will work here as well. Again, a lot of things to be developed, a lot of things to be invented until this is a commercial technology. Both of these technologies, as we see them today, will be only usable for cold storage. You cannot overwrite a DNA, you cannot overwrite this quartz crystal. So in the future, if these will be storage technologies, they will be one-time writing and then only reading. But I guess that's probably fair enough, because if I have a 20 petabyte storage component or a 20 exabyte storage component, I just fill it up with the data that should be archived. And if it is full, then I write another one and another one. Yeah? So if these technologies will be commercially available, kind of the ways of using storage will be changing anyway. If we look at the situation right now, so let's go from macroscopic time frame to the microscopic time frame of today and in 1 to 3 years. There is still the discussion, will be hard disk drive completely replaced by SSDs and solid-state-based components? Well, it was a long discussion, many years, and people were saying all goes to SSDs. Today, most of us know that it won't happen. The SSD will be used in laptop desktops, will be used as boot drives and for databases. For the large backend storages and even kind of active online storages in the petabyte scale, SSDs are simply too expensive. So the storage component flash is about 6, 7, 8 times more expensive than the same capacity on the hard disk drive. And I mean, even if this gap was closed, and actually, the curves run in parallel curves never meet. So if this continues, then there will be always a price gap, and the hard disk drive will stay as the cheapest component. But let's say even if this component, if this cost gap would be closed, then we still need to manufacture a lot of capacity. And in 2022, there were about 1,000 exabytes manufactured, shipped, and filled with data on hard disk drive, and just 175 in SSDs. So just 85%. And even if we include all these laptop, desktop components, it's still 76% that all data is going on a hard disk drive because they are so cheap in terms of capacity, and that won't change for the few next more years. The technologies within this decade that will bring us hard disk drive with more capacity is mainly about the recording technology. We have to write our data more dense on the existing physical structure. This hard disk drive has 10 platter, 20 heads, kind of in 2.7 centimeter, a stack of 10 platter, 20 heads. We are thinking to put 11 platter and evaluate also 12 platter, but there is somehow an end what you can do in mechanics before it gets pretty unstable. So more magnetic surface is being worked on, but it's pretty difficult to implement. So we have to write more dense. Actually, reading is no problem. It's always about the writing because we need to put magnetic energy, and therefore we need a certain size of the write head. With microwave-assisted magnetic recording, we are putting additional microwave energy, means we can write with less magnetic energy and shrink the write head. And this actually, the current technology uses this already. With the next generations of this technology, we may see, let's say, up capacities in the 30 to 40 terabytes. After that, we cannot shrink it further. We have to do something more like this microwave oven, we cannot shrink it. So we are planning to use lasers. Lasers can be shrinked much more, and with the laser we can heat up the magnetic material. As we heat it up to the Curie temperature, we can write with less energy, ideally with almost no energy. So that heat-assisted magnetic recording technology has a potential in R&D for hard disk drives of about 100, maybe even 200 terabyte. Yeah, so that's for the next decade. Again, 20 petabyte in 20 years, that will be tough with current technology. And actually, this is the end of what I wanted to tell you. Maybe one more word here. So with the heat-assisted magnetic technology, it's not that easy. The major work to be done here is, because of this laser heating, it wears out the magnetic material. Yeah? So, and as we all want to have hard disk drives that keep our data very safe, we do not want this wear-out effect. Yeah? So this is our major task as a technology supplier, to clarify this, to develop a technology where the data is safe for the time we want to have the data safe. We have more to show on our booth, so we have more history there. We have checked all our old cabinets and found all the intermediate steps of hard disk drive evolution. So we have there from 20 megabyte to 20 terabyte, but all intermediate steps. And it's interesting to discuss with people and say, what was your first hard disk drive? You will find your first hard disk drive that you have been using in your professional career probably in our museum that we have on our booth. What we also are showing on our booth is a little bit more about the future, the next years of future. So we have already a petabyte there. Actually, we have several petabytes in live demo, but we have, for example, one cluster of 1.5 petabytes of hard disk drive storage, kind of very safe, very resilient, also very high performance actually. Hard disk drives are called to be slow, but a lot of hard disk drives together show a lot of performance. So we are very happy to explain you about how hard disk drives scale in performance for today's need of active online storages in cloud with kind of high-end backbone networks and so on. Yeah? So there's also something to be discussed about the future. We are doing this together with our partners. You know, a hard disk drive is more like a screw and nail component. By itself, it cannot do much. If we want to show it live, we have to have enclosures, we have to have controllers, we have to have servers, we have to have software to drive the hard disk drive bunch and provide it as a resilient storage. So our partners, AIC, Microchip, and OpenE, are also welcoming you on our booth and explain what they add together with the Toshiba hard disk drive to a very high resilient, high performance cloud storage. Come to our booth, you're very welcome. Thank you.
Rainer, thank you so much. Tell us a little bit, I mean, you just went through kind of the evolution of the hard drive. Is there a technical obstacle? Is there any like end in sight? I mean, you kind of showed us where the direction is headed, but they keep getting smaller and smaller.
Well, from technical point of view, I guess everything is possible. Looking at the last 40 years, everything was somehow possible. I think the end of the hard disk drive may be reached when it's commercially not viable anymore. You know, this type of commodity mass products need to match the price or the cost that people are willing to pay. Let's say if a 100 terabyte hard disk drive is cheaper per capacity than a 50 terabyte, there will be 100 terabyte. But let's say if the 100 terabyte hard disk drive is 10 times more expensive than a 50, then it won't work anymore. Then people would use rather 250 terabytes. I mean, even today, we maybe can manufacture a 40 terabyte for 8 times the price of a 20. That won't work. If this situation cannot be recovered by R&D and product optimization, then it's the end of the evolution of the hard disk drive. We will use them for a few more years, but there won't be any new models, but this is not in sight at all today.
It's going to keep going. All right, well,
Absolutely.
thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.